When one's back is against the wall, we truly ascertain the kind of person you are. Now this could mean 4 possible outcomes. You're either a Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, or a Slytherin. Bear this in mind, because this is important and we're going to get to it soon enough for the 4th goddamn video on this poxy, annoying little person. But as I like to update people on that, on some stories especially, it seems relevant. Now before we get into that, 3 things, I think. Firstly, I'd like to thank this lovely person here for sending me this lovely piece of fan art. Now yes, I haven't been on Twitter and I have no intention of going back there anytime soon. I think removing myself from a number of social media outlets has made it easier for me to put more time into myself, which is more important to me, to be honest. Link to this particular image and the Twitter in question below. Thank you very much. Second, my dear friend the Satiritician is making a little return to YouTube, having been decimated by Sean Head, losing over I think 12,000 subscribers, being missing for about 7 months. He made this video and I'm going to play it in its entirety because I feature in it. I do also want to quickly point out before I play it, learn to spell. Brave has an R. Link to his channel in the description below. Please consider subscribing, he is a very good friend of mine. Third, tonight 9:30 PM GMT, I'm going to try and stream over on the Cthulhu-Kin and Friends show. Theresa May will be presenting an update to Brexit. This update will include postponing the meaningful vote until mid-March, merely 2 weeks before we leave the EU. Couple that with the fact that Corbyn, to protect his party, has backed a second referendum. Things are going to get very interesting in the world of United Kingdom's politics. That made sense. So if you are interested in seeing what is going on and listening to me bleat on about it for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, link below. So there was an article put out yesterday, now we're back on track and on topic, about Shamima Begum by the Daily Mail. Now the article has the headline that she has apologised, which I thought was quite fascinating, because she was also quoted as saying, "I want to inspire British girls not to make the same mistakes." Well, doesn't that scream role model to you? And naturally, as we all well know, when you tell a child or teenager not to do something because you don't want them to make the mistakes you've made, they'll totally listen, right? Anyway, some interesting facts came out in this article that I didn't know about. Firstly, in the Al Hol, which many of you actually in the comments yesterday called the A-Hole, refugee camp or internment camp or detention camp, whichever you want to call it. She's located within the Daeshi section. We're not a fan of Daesh. Daesh are bad. Like drugs, okay? It's also more commonly known as the ISIS Wives area, which totally screams celebrity, doesn't it? I mean, it totally has optimism. Yeah, I mean, based on these pictures, it has top quality food, so I know people who are on hand-to-mouth benefits and food banks who couldn't get a can of Coke or a bottle of Coke. If they tried, they'd have to steal it. The article tries to paint a picture that these women are still in the thralls to ISIS. They still believe them enough, so much so they'll attack people who are trying to help them. That's fine. They can attack whoever they want, bites the hand that feeds you, like a good snake. We're getting closer to that sorting thing, aren't we? Among the many interviews that Shamima has given, the one I want to quickly focus on is this 30-second clip, because I want to quickly focus on that and something else she said.
Would you be prepared to let the son go to the UK if he has... You would. He would stay with you. To the politicians in the UK, is there anything you want to say to the...
I would like them to reevaluate my case with a bit more mercy in their heart.
Do you think you can change? Can you rehabilitate?
I'm willing to change.
Please find enclosed papers that relate to a decision taken by the Home Secretary to deprive your daughter Shamima Begum of her British citizenship. In light of the circumstances of your daughter, the notice of the Home Secretary's decision has been served on file today, 19th February, and the order removing her citizenship has subsequently been made. Okay then.
What do you think?
I don't know what to say. I'm not that shocked, but I'm a bit shocked.
So the Home Secretary's deprived you of your British citizenship?
Yeah. But I've heard that other people are being sent back to Britain. So I don't know why my case is any different.
Now, one of the valid points she raises within the second video, because obviously she wants the Home Office to re-evaluate, but she doesn't want to be separated from her son. So my concern about her son completely mitigated because you can't get the kid away from her in the first place. No precondition, I guess. But the part that sticks out like a sore thumb is in the second video, because in the first one she wants the re-evaluation by the Home Office. The second one, though, she points out something that I tend to agree with, something that many of you in the comments have agreed with on the 3 videos I've done so far on Shamima Begum. The Home Office is inconsistent, and has been for a long time. Different governments have administered their policies and their privileges differently, some taking a more liberal stance and welcoming everyone back to either interview them or put them in very difficult circumstances, de-radicalisation, if it was in fact in place when they were in Parliament, or government, whichever you prefer. Some, over the years, taking a more no-nonsense view. Sajid Javid is taking a very strong no-nonsense view, and we might talk about the Hezbollah thing soon, in a future video, because he himself is a Muslim, and he appears to be using his position, his powers, to their fullest. Granted, there are a number of people who have come back, so there is still an inconsistency. But when your opposition is trying to play victim with those that have committed atrocious acts, to welcome them back, he looks good by comparison, especially since he has been actively trying to remove the term hostile environment, although I'm not entirely against hostile environment towards illegal immigrants, which was the whole damn point. But sadly, as with all things, innocent people always get caught in them. To those people, I'm very sorry. But back on track with Shamima, the article tries to sort of paint a picture. It did with the women. It tried to paint a picture of squalor. There are lots of pictures of the camp, which I think are quite fascinating. These women in a very hot environment wearing head to toe, only seeing their eyes. It's quite unfortunate. Further down the article, though, it does point out something, an observation made by the writer. Today I find Shamima at pains to be conciliatory. She finally seems to understand the offence she has caused and the damage it has done to her prospects of returning home, with her being quoted as saying, "I'm hoping to be given a second chance. I'd like to be an example of how someone can change. I want to help encourage other young people to think before they make life-changing decisions like this, and not to make the same mistakes as me. I can't do that if I'm sitting here in a camp. I can't do that for you." I, like many, would question the sincerity of this, which is where we come to the original thing I said at the start. When your back is against the wall, what do? Some would accept their fate and make the most of it, and do what they can to show change there. Rehabilitate there, for example, to the point where people would actually consider having you back because you have earned it. Although how one earns it is, of course, entirely subjective. Some would get clever, perhaps, maybe go through different courts. Some will just settle in. And then there's the fourth one, the snake. The one that is looking for any possible way around it. The article references pains to be conciliatory, which implies to me that you are not quite there yet. Saying sorry, in many cases, especially in this day and age, current year, is not enough. One must know what they did. One must be able to explain why they did it sufficiently, why that was wrong, and end on two magical words, which many people struggle with, so I'm not going to bother repeating them because I don't need to say them myself. As with all things, there are consequences for her being the poster girl for ISIS, to the point where women within the camp, the other jihadi wives... That sounds like a TV show waiting to happen. Can someone script that? She was quoted as saying, "Now a lot of women hate me. I'm afraid of a lot of people," with some of the more hard-lined ISIS women wanting to burn her tent down because she showed her face on TV, which explains why when Sky knocked on her tent flap, she only showed her eyes. There are currently 40,000 refugees within this camp, or detention camp. There are many conflicting articles about what it is. Let's go with, as she has been a part of ISIS or Daesh. Let's say, because you're in an enclosed area with barbed wire fencing and are not allowed to go outside it, you're not within a refugee camp, you're within an internment camp. Detention camp? You're not allowed to leave it, so yeah, you're a prisoner. The article continues to explain the food smuggling that goes on so that the Daeshi women don't starve, and then gets to a part I'm actually quite interested in, where Shamima speaks about how she gave over her British passport willingly when she arrived in Syria, and then 10 days later was taken, once arriving in Raqqa, to a room where she met her husband, a Dutch convert to Islam, a name I cannot pronounce. It then explains the formalities of asking questions and getting married, the article, that is, and then goes on to explain how Shamima again concedes that the ISIS dream, the caliphate, wasn't what it was meant to be, and how she was duped into it. The problem with all of this is that it has taken so long for her to get to a point where she can finally be open and honest about her involvement in all of this, to the point where her back is against a wall and she's not really showing guilt. She is saying it out of desperation, which leads many to believe, because she's not being honest sooner, she's being honest later, that perhaps she is not entirely sincere. Whether the Home Office take her word and decide to change their mind is for them to decide, but I can't imagine they would want to, because the outcry would be significant. Anyway, if more comes out, I will of course cover it. So I hope you all have a lovely Tuesday the 26th of February, and thank you all for listening.